Okay, so today we'll be doing the next 15 problems, and feel free to do the problems as I'm doing them by pausing the video. All right, so let's get started. F of x equals 2x plus 1, and g of x equals x squared minus 1. So then what is f of g of x? So all this is you just need to plug g of x into f of x. So you do this by writing f of g of x. That's just another way of writing this equals 2x squared minus 1 um, plus 1. So that's going to be 2x squared minus 2 plus 1, which is equal to 2x squared minus 1, which is letter C right here. So that's our answer. Okay, so on to number 12. The intersection of line x plus y equals 2 and circle x squared plus y squared equals 4 occurs when x equals. So just like the above, we're going to plug one of these equations into the other. So in this case, we're going to plug the line equation into the circle equation. So now I'm going to isolate the y variable here so that we can solve for x in this other equation. So y is going to be equal to negative x plus 2. Again, I just reordered this equation. And then x squared plus negative x plus 2 equals 4. So x squared plus x squared minus 4x plus 4 is equal to 4. 2x squared minus 4x is equal to 0. 2x multiplied by x minus 2 is equal to 0. So x is equal to 0. 2x is equal to 0. Divide both sides by 2. So then x is equal to 0. Please excuse my bad handwriting. And then x is also equal to 2. So our solutions are going to be 0 and 2, which is letter D right here. All right, on to number 13. Which is a 0 of the function f of x equals sine 2x minus a half? Okay, so we're going to change this f of x to a 0 because we want to find the 0 of the function. So 0 equals sine 2x minus a half. Then sine of 2x is equal to a half. So then we're going to take the arcsine of a half, and we're going to just draw our little triangle here just to demonstrate. So we have a hypotenuse of 2 and an opposite side of 1. This is going to be root 3 if you want to plug that in. So then this angle right here is going to be pi over 6. So 2x is equal to pi over 6. This is something you learned pretty early on in trig. X will then be equal to pi over 12. And if x is equal to pi over 12, and that's a 0, then we know that negative pi over 12 is also a 0. So our answer is letter A. All right, number 14. A circle is inscribed in a square. If the area of the square is 36 square units, what is the area of the circle? Okay, so we're going to draw a square. Hold up, let me just get this shapes tool. A square. I'm going to draw a very rudimentary circle in it. Okay, I would say that's close enough. So the area of the square is 36 square units. So what's going to be the area of our circle? All right, so if the area of a square is 36 square units, then we know that each side has a length of 6 because 6 squared is 36. So then by knowing what this side is or this side, we automatically know the diameter of the circle because that's just going to be the length of one of the sides of the square. So our diameter is 6. And then it's just smooth sailing from here. We know that our radius is our diameter over 2. That's going to be 3. And then our circle area formula is area equals pi r squared. So then our area is going to be 9 pi, which is letter B right here. Okay, so this question is asking us to find the sum that's expressed right here. So what we want to do first is rewrite it as, and I'll just draw it out here, n equals 1 to 100, n, and then minus sigma 100 and equals 1 and then 2. So we want to remember that our sum formula is n multiplied by a1 plus an divided by 2. So then here our n is 100, our a1 is 1, and our an is 100. So we're just going to divide all that by 2. So 100 multiplied by 1 plus 100 divided by 2 minus 2 multiplied by 100. And that's going to give us our answer of 4850, which is letter E right here. Also, if you have a TI-84, I don't know if any other calculators have this. I know my scientific calculator doesn't, but my TI-84 does. You can just use the sum feature. Let me just pull it out and tell you guys what to do. So you go to math, and then you hit 0, and you should get the summation formula. So if you don't want to do this work, then you can just use that function. And I find that a bit easier, especially on tests that can be time crunches, like this one. So number 16. In the xy plane, the vertices of a triangle are -1, 3, vertices of a triangle, -1, 3, 6, 3, and -1, -4. So we're going to draw our xy plane here. So we have -1, 3, 6, 3, and -1, -4. So you should notice that this question is basically already done for us. We already have a right triangle set up because these 2 points are on the same line, and these 2 points are on the same line. And so are these two. And then this would be a right angle. So our triangle area formula is half base height, or in this case, it's half x, y, if you want to think about it like that. So this coordinate right here is -1, 3. So y equals 3. And this is y equals -4. So then the length of the height of the triangle is going to be 7. Or the height of the triangle is going to be 7. And then the base of the triangle is x equals -1 to x equals 6. So that's also going to be 7. So it's half times 7 times 7. So half times 49, and that should come out to be 24.5. And that's letter C right here. So that's our answer. Okay, so on to the next problem. A right cylinder has radius 5 and height 5. If A and B are points on the surface, what is the maximum possible distance between them? All right, so I already drew in our right cylinder here. And so A and B are points on the surface. So we want to look at this right cylinder and think about what is the largest possible distance that can be had between any 2 points on the surface of the cylinder. And since it's a right cylinder, it's going to be the hypotenuse of a triangle. And so it gives us that the right cylinder has radius 5 and height 5. So we know that this line spans the whole cylinder. So we know that it has a base of the diameter of the right cylinder. So our diameter is going to be 5 times 2 equals 10. That's our diameter. And our height is 5. And then we can just use the Pythagorean theorem. So that's going to be 10 squared plus that's 125. I need to check with my calculator just to make sure. Yeah, it's root 125. So our answer is going to be E, which is 5 root 5. Let me just write down the steps here. So 5 squared plus 5 squared, sorry, equals 5 root 5. And that's our answer. So number 18. In the figure, AB is equivalent to AC, and angle A is equal to 80. So what is X? All right, so it tells us that angle A is equal to 80. and that AB is equal to AC. This is going to be 8. So we know now that since these sides are both equivalent, these angles are also going to be the same. So we can write out a formula here. That's a weird looking 8. 80 plus 2x is equal to 180 because all the angles in a triangle add up to 180. So 2x is equal to 100 and x is equal to 50. So we know that both of these angles are 50 degrees. It's also 50. And then to find x, we can just use the law of sines. So the law of sines is sine A over A is equal to sine B over B. So right now we want to find side A. So we're going to do sine of 80, which is angle A, over x. Let me make this not look like a mess. Sine 80 over x is equal to sine of 50 over 8. And then by rearranging those, we should find that our answer is 8 multiplied by sine 80 divided by sine 50. And that's going to give us 10.3, which is letter B right here. Okay, so number 19. F of x equals 2x squared is translated 2 units to the right and 1 unit up. If the resulting graph of is g of x, then what is g of 3? So first we have to write an equation for g of x. Okay, so our parabola equation is written here. All we have to do is translate 2 units to the right and 1 unit up, as the question says. So that would be 2 multiplied by x minus 2. Because remember that whatever you put in here, it does the opposite. So if you wanted to translate left, then you would do plus 2. If you want to translate right, then you do minus 2. And then 1 unit up. And that's going to be g of x. That's our formula for g of x. Then what is g of 3? Okay, so g of 3, we're just going to plug in 3 into this formula. G of 3 equals 2 multiplied by 3 minus 2 squared plus 1. So 2 times 1 squared, which is just 2, plus 1. That's going to give us our answer of 3, which is letter A. Okay, so number 20 asks, a sequence is recursively defined as a sub 1 equals 0 and a sub 2 equals 1. And for n is greater than 2, a sub n equals a sub n minus 1 minus 3a sub n minus 2. And what is a sub 6? Okay, so the easiest way to go about this is actually just to make a table. So we're going to have input, output. So our first two numbers are already given to us. We know that a sub 1, instead of writing input, I should write a sub n. So n. So for n is 1, it gives us 0. And then for n is 2, it gives us 1. So then we know that a sub 3 is going to be equal to a sub n minus 1. So that's going to be 2. So equals a sub 2 minus 3 multiplied by a sub 1. But in this case, that's just going to equal 1 again. Now for a sub 4, we're going to follow that same rule. That's going to end up being 1 minus 3, so that's negative 2. For a sub 5, that's going to be negative 2 minus 3, so that's going to be negative 5. Then for a sub 6, we're going to have 6 as n, and then it's going to be negative 5 minus 3 multiplied by negative 2, so that's going to come out to be 1. So we have a of 6, that's 1, and that's letter B right here. Alright, so if sine of theta is equal to 0.47, then sine of pi minus theta is equal to. Okay, so we're going to have to use a trig identity for this problem, because this is sine of A minus B, And sine of A minus B is equal to sine A cosine B minus cosine A sine B. And now we just want to plug in our values. So sine of pi cosine theta minus cosine pi sine theta. So we know that sine of pi is just going to be 0. So 0 multiplied by cosine theta, this is a 0, minus cosine theta is going to be -1 because on the xy plane, cosine theta, well, the angle theta is here. The x coordinate is -1, the y coordinate is 0. And then sine theta. We're going to end up with negative times negative, that's just a positive. Sine theta is our answer. And we already know that sine theta is 0.47, so our answer is going to turn out to be 0.47 as E. Okay, so number 22 asks, what is the range of the function defined as g of x equals 1 over x plus 3? So this isn't a very hard problem, you just have to think about what's going on. So we know right off the bat that this denominator can't equal a certain number, and that certain number is 0, because then that would make it undefined. So then if we were to do 0 equals 1 over x plus 3, then we know that y can never equal 3, because this is never going to go away. You can't plug in values that are, well, you can only plug in values that are numbers besides 0. So y is always going to turn out to be something other than 3. So our answer is going to be all real numbers except for 3. Okay, the next one is just matrix multiplication, and if you haven't learned that, I know my pre-calc class hasn't gone over that yet, but if you haven't learned that, then it's very simple. So what is BA? Okay, so we're going to do B. This is the matrix B. And all this is we're just going to multiply each value. So 2 times 1 plus 2 times 0. Then this, so this section of the matrix, this row of the matrix is going to be -1 times 1 plus 4 times 0. This is going to be, we're going to be adding. We're not going to be adding, I'm sorry. We're going to be having 2 times 3 plus 2 times -1 for the B term of the matrix. And then -1 times 3 plus 4 times -1. Sorry, the work went a little bit off the page, but you get the idea. And then doing these operations on this matrix is going to give us 2, 4, -1, -7. And that's our answer, letter D right here. And if you noticed, all we did was we multiplied this term times this. Then we multiplied this term times this again. Then we multiplied this term times this, and then we multiplied this term by this again. So matrix multiplication is pretty simple, you just have to get used to it. So this question is asking, in the figure, there is a regular hexagon with sides of length 6. So we're just going to write in some more 6's just to help us. If the coordinate of A is 9, 0, what is the y coordinate of B? Okay, so we know that the distance from the origin to A is 9. And so if we do 9 minus 6, 6 is the length of the hexagon, and 9 is the distance from the origin to this point on the hexagon, then we will get that this space here is equal to 3. And now we can just use the Pythagorean theorem. So 3 squared plus b squared is going to be equal to 6 squared. So that's 36 minus 9. And then that's 27. So the root of 27 is going to be 3 root 3. And that's our answer right here. All right, so the final question, question number 25. A sample of 25 scores has a mean 75, median 79, and standard deviation of 8. If you increase every score by 10, which of the following is true? So increase every score by 10. The new mean is 85. The new median is 89. And the new standard deviation is 18. Okay, so the question states that we're increasing every score by 10. So it would make sense that the mean would go up because all the values are increasing. It would also make sense that the median would be 10 greater because that's also increasing by 10, and so are all of the values. But number 3 is not correct because the values aren't actually moving farther apart. Standard deviation is a measure of how far apart values are, and these values are not moving farther apart. They're only increasing by 10. So our answer would be C, 1 and 2 only. So thank you for watching, and feel free to leave questions down in the comments, and I'll get back to them as soon as I can.